Real terrifying cabin in the woods story. You shouldn't hear alone the moment we stepped into that digital cabin. Pause. I swear it didn't feel like just a game. From the very first second, something about it felt wrong. The way the wood creaked under our feet, the way the wind outside cut off the moment we crossed the threshold, the way the shadows seemed to stretch and twitch across the walls like they weren't just graphics but alive. I laughed it off at first, muttering, "Yeah, great atmosphere, guys." But deep down, I felt it, that little crawl at the back of your neck, the one that whispers, "You shouldn't be here." And then there was the smell. I know it makes no sense. This is a game, right? You can't smell a game. But I swear my brain filled in the blanks. It was like mold mixed with something metallic, something rotten, something that should have been left buried in the woods. It hit me so hard that I found myself holding my breath, just like I would if I had walked into a real abandoned cabin. That's when I realized this wasn't just clever programming. This cabin wanted to feel real. The floor groaned like it was alive, like every step we took was echoing into something beneath us. And then the door behind us slammed shut. No wind, no animation trick, just bam, so loud it made me jump out of my chair. My heart skipped so fast I had to laugh nervously, like, cool, love it when doors just lock themselves totally fine. But in my chest, my pulse was racing because it didn't feel like the game was starting. It felt like something had just trapped us. For a moment, none of us spoke. The silence was so heavy it pressed on my ears, like when you dive too deep underwater. I could hear my own breathing in my headset, too loud, too shaky. One of my friends broke it with a joke. "Well, we're officially squatting now. Welcome to our new home." I chuckled, but the sound felt brittle, fake, like we were all just pretending, because that cabin didn't feel empty. It felt like it was waiting. I took a few steps forward, and the shadows shifted, not in a normal, lighting effect way, but like something moved out of the corner of my eye. I spun the camera. Nothing, just dust floating lazily through the air, but the thing about dust is, it doesn't move unless something disturbs it. And it was swirling in slow patterns, like invisible hands were brushing through it. My heart was hammering so hard I started talking more than I should have. You know how you get nervous and start babbling. That was me. I said something dumb like, "Okay, guys, no big deal haunted cabin, cursed air quality, maybe the Wi-Fi's possessed too." But no one laughed this time, not even a pity chuckle. That's when it hit me. We were all feeling it. The heaviness, the wrongness, the sense that we weren't alone in that cabin. And then we heard it, a creak. Not from where we were standing, deeper inside, a long, slow, dragging groan of wood under weight, someone moving. My throat tightened instantly. One of us whispered, "Did you hear that?" But no one answered, because we all had. We stood frozen in silence, staring down the dark hallway that stretched deeper into the cabin, and in that silence, I swear I could hear a faint, steady ticky-tick-tick, like a clock. Except it was too far away, too faint, too inviting. I wanted to back out, to quit, but the thing about fear is, it hooks you. It dares you to see how far you'll go. And even though every instinct in me screamed to get out, we stepped forward anyway. Beat, and that's when we saw the first sign that we weren't alone. So, we did the one thing we probably shouldn't have done. We stepped deeper into the cabin. Pause. The hallway stretched out in front of us like it was daring us to come closer. Every step made the wood beneath us groan and pop like it hadn't been walked on in years. You know that sound when you're trying to sneak into the kitchen at 2 a.m. and the one floorboard betrays you. Yeah, that sound, except here it wasn't funny, it was loud, too loud, like the cabin was announcing us to whatever was inside. The walls were lined with old wallpaper, peeling in long strips, curling at the edges. The designs were faded flowers, but the longer I looked, the more it seemed like claw marks. Jagged scratches tearing straight through them, as if someone, or something had been desperate to get out. Or maybe desperate to get in. I forced a laugh, saying, well, I think HGTV would call this a fixer-upper, but my voice cracked and I could hear my own nerves in it. Then at the far end of the hallway we saw it, a grandfather clock, tall, looming, its wood dark and splintered. And the weirdest part, the hands were missing, just an empty face, yet it was ticking, loud, steady. Like a heartbeat. Tick-tick-tick, I whispered half, joking, if this thing strikes midnight, I'm uninstalling. But the closer we got, the louder it became. It didn't sound like a normal clock anymore. It sounded mechanical, deliberate, like gears grinding teeth. We froze halfway down the hall when the light overhead flickered. For a second, the whole hallway plunged into darkness, and I swear, I saw a figure at the end. Just a silhouette, tall, hunched. When the light flickered back on, it was gone. My friend tried to play it off, probably a shadow glitch, but nobody moved. Because we all saw it, finally, one of us muttered, just keep going. So we did, step by step. My heart was hammering so hard it felt like it was syncing with the clock. Tick, tick, tick. The closer we got, the more wrong it felt. Like the sound wasn't just filling the air. It was inside my chest, crawling under my skin. We reached the end of the hallway and stopped right in front of the clock. Up close, the wood was carved with patterns, but not the kind you'd expect. These weren't pretty designs, symbols, Estirangia ones overhecking, etched in deep, almost burned into the surface. I leaned closer, squinting, and whispered, do these look like runes to you guys, or am I just losing it? And then, pause, the clock ticked louder. Not normal loud, deafening, it sounded like it was right inside my ears. I stumbled back, clenching my headset, but the others swore it wasn't that loud for them. Which means whatever that clock was, it wanted me, and then came the whisper, faint, garbled, like static, but shaped into words. I couldn't understand all of it, but one phrase came through clear, don't stay. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold on the controller. I whispered it aloud. It just said don't stay. Nobody laughed. Nobody argued. We were all dead silent. I wanted to quit right there, just shut it down, but the hallway behind us was pitch black now. The door we came through, gone. All that was left was another door, just past the clock, and even though every nerve in my body screamed, don't open it, curiosity dragged us forward. And when we pushed that door open, that's when everything got worse. The door creaked open, slow, like it was resisting us. Beyond it was a room we hadn't seen before, paused dark, dusty, barely lit by a single swinging bulb overhead. At first glance, it looked empty, and for a moment, I actually felt relief. But then I saw it. In the far corner of the room, an old rocking chair, moving back and forth, empty, no one sitting in it. No reason it should have been moving. But the way it creaked, the way the sound echoed across the room, it was like the chair was alive, like someone had just gotten up from it. I froze, my breath caught in my chest. One of my friends whispered, a physics engine bug. I tried to laugh, saying, yeah, sure, just haunted IKEA. But the joke didn't land. None of us moved closer. We edged around the room slowly, the camera sweeping side to side. Every shadow seemed to stretch just a little too long. The bulb overhead flickered. For a split second, the chair stopped rocking, dead still. Then it started again. Faster this time, back and forth, creaking louder, like whatever was sitting in it had just come back. My palms were sweating. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like the game could hear it. And then we heard it. Footsteps, not ours, slow, heavy, deliberate, coming from the hallway we had just walked through, each one louder than the last. Thud, thud, thud. My stomach dropped. We spun the camera, pointing it toward the hallway, but the door we came through was wide open, empty. Nothing there, but the footsteps didn't stop. They kept coming, steady, closer, louder. We all stopped talking. Completely silent. The only sound was the rocking chair creaking, and those footsteps approaching. My breathing got shallow. I whispered, you hear that, right? And nobody answered. Not because they didn't hear it, but because they didn't want to admit they did. The bulb flickered again, plunging the room into darkness for half a second, and in that flash I swear I saw something. A shape, a tall, thin shadow standing in the doorway. When the light came back, it was gone. The chair slammed to a stop. Dead still, that silence, it was worse than the sound. I whispered, maybe it's scripted, maybe nothing happens if we just wait. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. The footsteps picked up again, this time. They weren't slow, they were running, charging straight toward the room. Panic hit instantly. My hands shook on the controller. My friend shouted, "Close the door, close it." But the game wouldn't let us. The door stayed wide open, and the sound kept rushing closer. The chair tipped forward, slammed onto the floor with a crash. And then, silence, we froze, staring into the dark hallway. My headset buzzed with static, faint whispers bleeding through. Words I couldn't understand, like a voice just out of reach. I leaned closer to the screen, straining to make sense of it. And then, just as I thought I heard something clear pause, the bulb overhead burst, shards of light and glass scattering into the room. The screen went almost completely dark. My heart was pounding out of my chest. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Guys, I don't think we're alone in here." Beat, and that's when the game showed us the first real sign of who, or what, was inside that cabin. The screen flickered back to life after the bulb shattered, and for a second, all we could see was static and dust floating through the air. I swear my hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the controller. We panned the camera slowly across the room, nothing. No figure, no footsteps. The chair was on its side, broken, but the room itself, empty, too empty. That's when we noticed it. Another door, hidden in the shadows on the opposite wall. I swear it hadn't been there before, but now it was clear as day. Wooden, old, and half open, like it was waiting for us. My throat went dry. I whispered, "Do we go in?" And of course, because we're idiots, we pushed it open. The moment we stepped through, the air changed. It got heavier, thicker, like the cabin itself was pressing down on us. The hallway beyond was narrow, lined with old portraits. At first, I thought they were just random paintings, but the longer I stared, the more familiar they looked. Faces, not strangers, they looked like us. Twisted, distorted versions of our own faces, staring back with hollow eyes. I tried to laugh it off. Wow, custom portraits, that's thoughtful. But my voice cracked again. Nobody else said a word. We just kept moving, step by step, down that suffocating hallway. The deeper we went, the colder it got. I could see our breath in the air, like we had just stepped into a freezer, and then came the sound. Soft at first, almost like someone humming a lullaby, faint, broken, like it was coming from another room. It grew louder the further we walked, until we reached the end of the hall, and there it was, another door. This one was different, smaller, crooked. The paint was chipped away, and tiny scratch marks surrounded the handle, like little hands had been clawing at it. My chest tightened. My friend whispered, "Nope, absolutely not. That's a doll room. I can feel it." I tried to joke. Maybe it's just storage, but deep down I knew. We all knew. The lullaby stopped. Dead silence. My stomach dropped. We pushed the door open, and the sight made my skin crawl. It was a nursery, or at least it had been. Tiny cribs lined the walls, all broken. The wallpaper was faded with little cartoon animals, smiling but peeling away. And scattered across the floor dolls, dozens of them, old, cracked with missing eyes. Some of them were propped up against the walls, staring straight at us. Others were slumped over, limbs twisted. I stepped into the room, and the wood creaked under my feet. That's when I realized the dolls weren't just lying around randomly. They were positioned, arranged. All of them facing the center of the room, and in that center was a small rocking horse, motionless. But when we got closer, it started to move, back and forth, slowly, without anyone touching it. My friend whispered, "Nope, I'm done. I'm done. Delete this game." I wanted to laugh, but my throat was too dry. My skin prickled as the air filled with faint whispers again. Soft, high-pitched like children giggling just out of sight. Then every doll's head turned in perfect unison. Snapping toward us, the screen shook. My heart stopped. My headset was buzzing with static so loud it hurt, and I swore I heard a voice beneath it. Just one word, "Stay." We all screamed. I slammed the controller down for a second, pacing my room like, "Nope, nope, nope, not doing this." But when I picked it back up, the game wasn't waiting for me. Every single doll in that room had stood up. Beat, and that's when the real nightmare started. The room was massive, way bigger than anything inside a cabin should have been. The walls were swallowed in shadows, only lit by flickering candles scattered across the floor. Their flames bent and twisted like they were reacting to us being there. And right in the middle, on an old wooden chair, sat a figure. It didn't move. It didn't even breathe. At first, I thought it was just another doll, just bigger, life-sized. But then its head tilted, slow, deliberate, and I swear my entire body froze. Its face was hidden in shadow, but I could see the outline, a sharp grin, hollow eyes that weren't really eyes at all, just pits of darkness. Nobody said a word. We didn't even breathe into our mics. The sound design was too real. The crackle of the candles, the faint hum in the air, the way the shadows seemed to bend around it. This didn't feel like a game anymore. And then it spoke, not in subtitles, not in text, directly, a voice, deep and distorted, bleeding through the static. "Why did you come here?" My heart was hammering so hard I almost quit right there. My friend stuttered out, We didn't mean to," and we all laughed nervously, but the figure didn't. It stood up. The chair tipped back with a crash. The candles blew out, one by one, plunging the room into darkness. Only the faint glow of the screen kept us anchored, and then it moved, too fast. 1 second, it was across the room. The next, it was inches from us. I screamed. I'll admit it. I actually screamed. The thing's face filled the screen, stretched and distorted. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The face wasn't random. It was ours, twisted versions of our own faces, stitched together, flickering between each of us as if it was wearing us like masks. I dropped the controller for real this time. Backing away from my desk like that would help. My friend yelled, "Pause the game, pause it." But of course, there was no pause. The menu didn't even exist anymore. The figure leaned closer, filling the entire screen. The audio spiked with static, so loud it made my headset shake. And then, in perfect clarity, it whispered, "Stay forever." The screen went black, total silence. We sat there, staring at the darkness, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Finally, text appeared, white, simple, "You shouldn't have come here," and then boom, the game crashed. Just straight to desktop. No error, no warning, just gone. I ripped my headset off and just sat there in silence. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking. My friend finally broke the silence with a, "Yeah, safe to say, I'm never playing that again." And honestly, same, because whatever that was, it felt too real. Like the game wasn't just a game. Like we brought something back with us. So if you're thinking about checking it out yourself, don't. Or at least don't play it at night, and definitely not alone. Beat anyway, safe to say. We're uninstalling, burning the hard drive, and maybe moving to a city where cabins don't even exist. Thanks for surviving this nightmare with us. Make sure to drop a like if your heart didn't stop completely, and subscribe for more horror that'll keep you up at night. Because trust me, this is only the beginning.